Session 81, Surah Fatiha, the Qur'an summarized. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin with the name of Allah, who is most gracious and merciful. We are on Surah Fatiha verses 6 and 7, that is, the path of those whom you have rewarded, not the ones who earned your annoyance, nor those who went astray. '31 Surah Luqman. Haza khalqullahi faruni maza khalqallazina min dunihi bal zalimuna fi zulalim mubin. Translation: So all that you can see and what all you cannot see, all this, everything has been created, brought into being by Allah. Now point out, show me as to what has been created by those other than Him. Definitely not. You can't show anything and you would squirm, show embarrassment, wriggle along. But the unjust, unfair, intellectually dishonest are clearly and miserably miscued, wandering off the rails, totally lost. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ وَأَنِشْكُرُ اللَّهَ وَمَنْ يَشْكُرْ فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. This is 31 Surah Luqman, verse 12, translation and explanation. Monotheism is in perfect order with human intelligence, and only the bloody-minded, the caste, obstinate, voluptuary, addicted to luxury and sensual pleasures, physgig, readily believe in other gods. They readily believe in other gods with twisty explanations to smoother their conscience, keep morality on their side to smoother their conscience, keep morality on their side, and expect to enter the heaven in spite of all the misdeeds, misdoings which the human mind would otherwise negate, find unconvincing. The intelligent, unprejudiced, open-minded have invariably found shirk, pantheism, paradoxical, absurd, illogical. Take the case of Luqman, a legendary intellectual of Arabia in the days of Prophet Daud. And as mankind has been bestowed with intelligence, we granted wisdom to Luqman that made him grateful, recognize his duties to Allah, and he who doesn't consider himself his own God, doing as he pleases, is grateful, recognizes his obligations, duties, is compliant to Allah, would be compliant factually and eventually to his own good. And who disobeys Allah is rebellious, can't resist enticing thrills, sins, must know that he has plunged himself in dire, terrible, inevitable calamity. In extremis, ultimate failure, for all evils are benign for Allah, have no harmful effects on him at all. Allah is least affected, all praiseworthy. It is inescapably binding for man to thank the mighty Allah for all that He has bestowed. However, one must not be snarled, confused by misconceptions that man's gratitude, subservience can contribute making Allah more superordinate, enhancing His power. Such an idea implies that perhaps there was still some mild little deficiency in Allah. May the thought be cast. Allah's attributes are not relative. He is intrinsically perfect, beyond man's comprehension. Man's gratitude, subservience, makes him worthy of greater endowments, makes the man worthy of greater endowments, blessings now in this world, and an enhanced reward, exaltation hereafter. Faithlessness, disloyalty is self-defeating. All evil presages, foreshadows disaster, misery, here and hereafter. All evil, I repeat, presages, foreshadows disaster, misery, here and hereafter. 31 Surah Luqman, verse 13. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِأَبْنِيهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Translation: And see the well-known sayings of Luqman when he harnaged his son, O my son, don't ever attribute associates with Allah. It is a mortal sin. Allah has declared never to forgive those who die as mushrikeen, pantheists. I repeat, Allah has declared never to forgive those who die as mushrikeen, pantheists. Definitely, creating associates, co-equals, shareholders, demigods is extremely unjust, unfair, off-putting, repulsive. 31 Surah Luqman, verse 14. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. My apologies. And this is Surah Qur'an, verse 14, and we have instructed the man to recognize, deliver the rights of his parents, especially the rights, obligations to his mother, who carries him or her when weak, during pregnancy, then delivers and then feeds. And breastfeeding is to be discontinued in postnatal 2 years. So recognize my right, be compliant, obedient to me and your mother and father. O my man, eventually you have to fall back to me. O my man, eventually you have to fall back to me. Now, the rights of the parents in various verses of Qur'an and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now, details about the rights of the parents. First, Surah Baqarah, Bani Israel, verse 22. وَقَضَىٰ رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغْنَ عِندَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُل لَّهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. I repeat, this is 7 Surah Bani Israel, verse 23. Translation: And you and your Rabb, my apologies, and your Rabb, Creator, has ordered that you do not worship, obey, be servant to anyone other than Him, that is Allah, and that you be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents. And if one of them, or for that matter, both of them, reach old age in your presence while you are alive, don't traduce, say unpleasant things, or be rude to them, nor be harsh, insolent to them, and speak to them with respect. Don't enter into polemics, arguments with them. Don't enter into polemics, arguments with them. 4 Surah Al-Nisa, verse 36. وَعَبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And worship, be subservient, obedient to Allah, and don't have with Him any associates, shareholders, demigods, etc. And be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents. I repeat, and be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents. Have no hang-ups about the authority, rights of the parents. Second to the authority, rights of Allah and His Prophet, peace be upon him. 29 Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 8. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا إِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ لَا تُشْرِكَ بِهِ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَأُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. This is, I repeat, 29 Surah Ankabut, verse 8. The obedience of parents follows the obedience of Allah and His Prophet, and so we have ordered the man, every individual, to be extremely kind, courteous to the parents. And, however, disobeying Allah and His Prophet on the behest, orders, directions, compulsions from anyone, any corner, is not permitted, even if they, the parents, force you to their optimum to have other gods, associates, demigods, or adopt the disbelievers' ways and values as opposed to Sunnah, for which you have no knowledge, no reason. Do not obey, follow them. Do not obey, follow them in this case. Don't feel morose, gloomy. Be sure this is also one of your tests. And ultimately, you all have to come back to me. Stand in the altar, then I'll let you know what all you are up to. Then I'll let you know what all you were up to. 46, Surah Al-Araf, verse 15. It's a lengthy verse, so the translation. And we have ordered the man to be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to his parents. I repeat, and we have ordered the man to be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to his parents. The mother carried her in the womb with difficulty and gave birth with pain, difficulty, till the time the individual reached full strength, 40s, and said, O my Rabb, Creator, put it in my fate that I remain grateful for the great favor that you have done to me and to my parents, and that I do pious deeds that propitiate, appease you, and give me pious offspring, and give me pious offspring. I am repentant, seek your forgiveness, and I surrender myself to you as your obedient. These are the people for whom we accept, these are the people from whom we accept, approve the best of deeds they have done, and forgive them shortcomings, shortfalls, and forgive them shortcomings, shortfalls. They will be among the heaven dwellers, the most truthful promise that is made to them, the most truthful promise that is made to them. يسألونك قال ينفقون كل ما أنفقتم من خير فللوالدين. This is 2 Surah Baqarah, verse 215. Translation: The Quran states, O Prophet, people ask you, what should we spend in the way of Allah? People ask you, what should we spend in the way of Allah? Tell them, whatever you spend in the way of Allah or otherwise, your parents have the first and foremost right. Your parents have the first and foremost right. It is mentioned at other places, 31 Surah Luqman, verse 14, and we have instructed the man to recognize, deliver the rights of his parents, especially the right obligation to his mother, who carries him or her when weak, during pregnancy, then delivers, and then feeds. 31 Surah Luqman, verse 14. That was verse 14. Now, moving ahead. Parents have the greatest right in the society. The Quran and the Prophet, peace be upon him, directed repeatedly to avoid being megalomaniacs, having exaggerated view of one's own importance, power, and to remain humble, subservient, obedient, and devoted in serving the parents. One can never repay them. There can be no supererogation, doing more than wanted in delivering their rights. Arrogant demeanor, conduct in dealing with the parents is most disliked, abhorred by Allah. I repeat, arrogant demeanor, conduct in dealing with the parents is most disliked, abhorred by Allah. Abu Umama Raziyullah Ta'ala states that a person inquired about the obligations of the children. My apology, a few ahadiths regarding on the subject of the parents. Abu Umama Raziyatala states that a person inquired about the obligation of their children towards their parents, that is, the rights of the parents, from the Prophet, peace be upon him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "Parents are the nub, the cause of your going to heaven, and parents are the nub, the cause of your going to hell. That is, if you keep them happy, pleased, you will go to heaven. And if they die in a state that they are displeased, unhappy, annoyed with you, you will go to hell." Ibn Majah, you will go to the hell. Ibn Majah. Once an individual came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and began complaining about his father, that he takes his money, items of utility, etc., whenever he likes. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asked for his father to come. An enfeebled old man appeared, leaning, hunched on his stick. On inquiring, the old man began speaking, "O Prophet of Allah, there was a time when he was feeble and helpless, and I was strong. I was rich, and he was empty-handed. I never stopped him from taking my things. Today, I am weak, and he is healthy and energetic, powerful. I am empty-handed, and he is rich. Now he keeps his money, things, etc., away from my reach." The soft, kind-hearted Prophet, peace be upon him, wept on hearing the old man thus, and addressing the old man's son stated, "You and your property belong to your father." He stated, "You and your property belong to your father." Tirmidhi. Abdullah bin Umar Razayullah Ta'ala Anhu stated that the Prophet said, peace be upon him, Prophet said, "Allah's pleasure is in the pleasure of the Father, and Allah's displeasure in the displeasure of the Father." Tirmidhi, Ibn Hibban, Ibn Hakim. Abu Sayyid Raziyullah Ta'ala Anhu states that a man came to the Prophet from Yemen. The Prophet, peace be upon him, inquired from him, "Do you have someone in Yemen?" He replied, "Yes, my parents." The Prophet inquired, "Have they permitted you?" The man said, "No, I didn't ask them." The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Okay, go back and seek permission from your parents. If they permit you, then you participate in jihad, war in the way of Allah. If they permit you, then you participate in jihad. Otherwise, stay with them and serve them." Abu Dawud. The Prophet, peace be upon him, stated, "The man is inescapably ruined. Surely then he is ruined. Surely then he is ruined." The people asked, "O Prophet of Allah, which man?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "The individual who finds his or her parents being old, both or any one of them, and doesn't look after, serve them to enter the heaven." Muslim. The Qur'an and the florid, very elaborate sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, establish the rights of the parents secondary to those of Allah, the Creator only. There were times when the sons were referred as the slaves of their fathers. The believers are directed not to walk ahead of their father, not to sit before the parents take seat. They are duty bound to remain implacably, unchangeably, pleasantly disposed towards the parents at all times, under all conditions, under all conditions, circumstances, with no exceptions whatsoever, especially when the parents are old. Always serving them humbly oriented, having endearments, expressions of love, affections, having endearments, expressions of love, affections, no grumbling, no scowls, wrinkling their brows, menacing, angry, or disapproving looks permitted at all. Allah detests scowling even at parents. I repeat, Allah detests scowling even at parents. That's the end for today. Please pray for me. Jazakallah. Ex-Brigadier Mustansir Billah.